Good morning. This is Mary coming to you from Charlotte So Natural. And today is the second Thursday, which is always our Sowers Club. I have had several different names to it, and we are thinking today that this is a very special Thursday. So glad you're joining us today for our technique that if you are part of the group right now, you received an email, and I titled the email saying, how many different ways are there to make a flying geese unit? So if you've been watching on Facebook, Kirsten to open, let's see, what do you call?
Unboxing.
Unboxing. She's standing back behind the camera. The unboxing. And if you have watched the unboxing from our Facebook page, you know that we are way past summer, spring, whichever you want to go, and we are in autumn and Christmas already. And if you have seen the unboxing, one of our newest groups that we have that have just recently come in is called, let's see, it's Rake and Bake. And when I looked at this, I thought, what a wonderful idea and a technique, because there's just a few flying geese units all the way around that panel. And the panel is so fun, and it has the little pickup truck. And we had a customer call in the other day, and I thought of her when I was putting this together because she was wanting to do something with the panel. And you can just look at this picture and decide that this is something fun that you could take any panel and add flying geese with a couple of borders. And that would be a wonderful way of increasing the size. The size of this kit, if I want to look a minute, is 49 by 69, which is a great throw size. And we do have kits available for that. And the throw size is just 72 inches needs to be a nice length for a throw, but yet it's still small enough if you have a place to hang up and want to do some kind of an autumn group. The weather here in Kansas last Monday, I would have guessed it was autumn. So today it's supposed to be a lot hotter. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how many different ways you can make a flying geese unit. And the pattern itself gives you a clue on what other techniques you can use, because the flying geese unit is a finished 2x4. And when you're thinking about different ways, and I always have to look at a pattern and think of a different way, a better way, a faster way of making flying geese units. And what might work for me for the project may be something totally different that would work for you. But in the pattern, it calls for your very traditional way of doing a 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangle, which is what I've done here, is a 2.5 by 4.5, and then they cut a 2.5 inch square, and you have to draw a line on it, and you would actually take and do your 2.5 by 4.5, take the square, mark a line down the center of the square, stitch on that, and when you do that technique, you want to stitch just a little bit towards the corner of your square, because if you stitch right on the line and then fold it up, you are going to have an issue of your other triangle, half of the square, being able to fold up and to cover that whole corner. So when you stitch on that, you want to stitch just, when I say a little bit, like a thread's width, because the thread takes up distance, the fabric takes up a little bit of area, and then you will be short when it comes to this corner. So you're going to have, sew one of the squares, sew across, fold it up, and then you're going to take and trim. You can do it both either ways. I usually trim that extra little triangle off, which is a little bit of a waste if you think about that. And then you'll lay the other triangle on there, the other square, stitch on slightly to this corner up here, and then fold this. You want to make sure you fold it up and press it first before you trim it off. Because that corner of that rectangle that you originally cut gives you the area upon which that's supposed to cover. So that's the technique that they use in the pattern to create all your all your flying geese units. So let me see. I have a technique that I love to use, and there is a formula. And every every time I teach a class and I start giving a formula and say it's 1.5 for this, or 1.25 more that you add, or whatever, 7/8, everybody just kind of glasses over and say, I don't want to know, I just want to know what to cut and how to cut it. So one of the best little tools that we have, and we sell lots of these, is the Flying Geese ×4. And I use this quite a bit if you are wanting to have numerous flying geese that are identical. Now, I do a lot of Kim Deal quilts, which are really scrappy, and sometimes this technique works really well, and other times you don't want to use this. But if you notice on this quilt here, you have quite a few flying geese units that are identical. So this works really fantastic. And the reason that this is such a nice ruler is that it will, let me see, what does it make? Flying geese units from, it makes anywhere from a 3.5 by 7 down to a 1.5 by 1.25. All the calculations are in this ruler. It's a you don't have to think about anything. And so what I've done here is I've looked on the back and you want to always think about the finished size. I can't say that enough. You want to talk about the finished size. So I come down here and it says a 2x4, which is what I want. A 2x4, so it has an F. So I don't know if you can see from the shine of the ruler or not, but the 2x4, and actually the calculation for that is you 1.5 times the 1.5, not times. Like I'm doing a 4, so I'm going to do a 5.25 large square, and then it's 7/8 inch for the 2, so it's 2 7/8. But you don't have to think about that. It does it all for the ruler. Excuse me. And that's what I've done here. Excuse me. So I've used my ruler to cut my large square, which is an F on the ruler. And so this is my large square. I don't care what it measures. That's just what it told me to cut with the ruler. And then I've cut my smaller squares using the other side. So you're going to use one side of the ruler, and then you're going to flip it around and come down to F here, and it says 2x4, and that gives me the size. So that's what I've done here. The thing that you have to pay close attention to when you use this technique is that you have to have a line drawn down the middle, and you have to have those points. So I'm not one that likes to take the time to draw the line, but you have to. That's all there is to it. You have to. So I'm lining those up so that point of this one is right on the line. You can kind of see through the light colored, but not always can you do that. So that line and those points are definitely lined up. So I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of that line. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to cut, well, right here's the other. I'm going to take and I'm going to cut, we'll just leave that blade right there. I'm going to cut on that line, and then I'm going to take, and that's what, this is half of it. I'm going to take and I'm going to press that up. After I cut that in half, this is what it's going to look like. Let's go to here. So I've cut that in half, and then I'm going to press those up. That looks like a little fox. Put little eyeballs on there, you can have a little fox. So you're going to press that up, and you're going to take one of your other squares that are laying here, and I'm going to line that point down here. And I will have 2 of these. So when I cut this, I'll have 2 units that look just like this. And I'm going to take and lay that. And this line should be right in the center of your other 2. And you're going to have 1/4 inch. And you're going to eye where that is. And I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on each side, which is what I've done here. And then I'm going to cut in half. And I'm going to end up with a unit that looks exactly like that. I can go ahead and cut that real quick here. I'll just use one of these templates, and I'm not going to cut it because oh yes, thank you. There we go. So I cut that in half, and remember I have this twice. This one was the other half of it. And so automatically I end up with 4 identical flying geese units. And you can get these wonkered if you do not line these lines up. So it will distort. And if you do happen to distort, I'll make a little plug on this right now. If you haven't used the block lock rulers, you have to buy the size that you are needing. Now this is a set of Flying Geese block lock rulers. It's set 2, and it comes with a 1.5 by 3 and a 2 by 4. And so this would actually, you could use that ruler, and it has a laser cut place in there where you nest your ruler, and it actually cuts a perfect finished 2 by 4 or a 1.5 by 3. Then another one of my favorites, if anybody has taken classes from me, you know that I am a Marty Michelle guru. And if I can make it adaptable into a Marty Michelle template or a ruler, I do. And part of that is that in Marty Michelle templates and in her rulers, you nip all of your points, which saves you 3/8 of an inch every time you do something. I believe it's a 3/8 of an inch. And her rulers and templates are multi-sized. When I say they do multi-purpose is what it is. So one of her newest products that I don't even have one of these at my house yet, is the small Flying Geese ruler. And the small Flying Geese ruler actually makes a 1 by 2 up to a 3 by 6. And it works kind of the same way, but you're only cutting triangles. You're not having to cut anything apart once you get them cut. But if you look at this, I'm going to come down here, and it's also it's an E. So on this template right here, it makes all these different sizes. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to look for a 2 by 4, which is an E. So it actually takes a 2.5. Over on this side, it's marked that it takes a 2.5 inch strip. And so I'm going to cut a 2.5 inch strip of my fabric, which the 2.5, the large part of my Flying Geese unit is my floral. So I've cut a 2.5 inch, and I usually cut about 4 layers at a time. And so I layer it up, have my 2.5 inch strip. And I'm going to go ahead, and you can flip, 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 and if you cut 4 at a time, it just really goes fast. And then by having them layered up, you just move your ruler, and you're going to, and I'm not gonna backhand it. And you're going to nip off these points. So you're gonna cut 4 or 5, however many. I usually like to cut 4 layers at a time. You have to make sure you have a nice sharp ruler, and you have to, nice sharp rotary cutter blade. And if you don't have that and start seeing the fabric push itself, then you know you need to replace the blade. And then at that point, I'm going to turn around here, and I cut the first triangle that I needed for the center of my Flying Geese unit from this area. And then if you look at it, it's got all kinds of grades, and so I'm just going to flip my ruler to this direction right here, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to find my E over here, because that's what I cut before, right? Yes, the 2 by 4 is E, so I'm just going to come down, and it's also a 2.5 inch strip right here. So I have my white cream color, light, and I will lay it on E. And just move my template, and I nip my points off right here. Get that back off there. Kind of backhanded. And they're ready to stitch on, no further trimming. You're going to stitch that and push up. And the thing about the nipped off points is that you do not have to eye where this is automatically placed with the nipped off corners. And so it fits perfect. You don't have to guess where your seam allowance goes when you have like if this was my triangle there, you'd have to kind of lay where the points are and see those. It's all there, not having to worry about that. And if you do not have the Flying Geese ruler, I would go to my set B. And I know it's set B because set B is based on a 4-inch square base. So 2x4, or what we're doing on the Flying Geese unit is the 2x4 in doing that. So that's why I would use, they're here somewhere. Right here. That's why it would be exactly the same thing as a B11 and a B13, which would do exactly the same thing. So you don't have to go rush out and do it if you're just going to do this project and get a 2x4-inch Flying Geese unit. You can pull out your B11, and that would also give you a finished 2x4, which sews together exactly the same way. So that is I think about the only ways that I usually make Flying Geese units in making that work. And if you have any questions on that, you can easily give us a call at Charlotte's, and it's 316-284-2547. And hopefully you're ready to start for fall, because when we reopen our doors, I think we have a lot of fall projects, and I think we've even got some Christmas things going. So hope that this gets resolved soon and that we can start seeing your shiny bright faces. Thank you much. Bye.